I started thinking about, what is the trend of life on Earth? And the trend of life on Earth over the period since life's been here, 3.7 billion years, has always been to elaborate and diversify the biota. That's life forms. Now agriculture tends to do the opposite. I was having a very simplified landscape on our property. I wanted more life coming onto the property. Now that can happen, that's always trying to happen in the landscape. Landscapes are trying to complicate themselves. It's human behaviour that stops it. So a lot of our management is really about allowing this natural process of self-organisation, complication, increasing diversity. We're allowing that to happen. That means time. Now we're able to do that with our long recoveries from grazing. My mind started changing 10 years before I actually started doing much. I did a bit of dabbling with, I'd read about the savoury method of grazing, planned grazing, and I did a bit of fiddling around, putting mobs of sheep together and behind movable fences. And I could see that it had a lot to recommend it, but I didn't actually do anything terribly concrete until 20 years ago when I did a holistic management course. I also did a sustainable agriculture master's degree at the same time, and because of both those courses, I came in touch with a lot of reading that I probably would never have come across if I hadn't done them. So yeah, I jumped in, boots and all. As soon as I'd done the course, I put all my animals together and started fencing in front of them to get more paddock divisions, because you need more to get the recovery. Well, that's the most common question you get asked is, how many DSEs are you running? And I used to beat myself on the chest and say we're trying to run 15 DSEs to the hectare. Now the question is irrelevant to me now. The answer to the question is how many stock are you running is always whatever's appropriate for the current conditions, because the conditions are constantly changing. We're constantly changing our stocking rate. As it dries down, we're taking stock off so that the numbers we've got are appropriate for the landscape to support in any conditions. Now that means that we've gone through 9 years of drought from 2002 to 2010, didn't feed any animals, didn't spend a cent on feeding. We didn't lose ground cover because we changed the numbers of animals up and down. And then in this current 18 months of very dry weather, we've had our numbers. We're much better at estimating how much grass we've got all the time, and so we've got appropriate numbers, and we've got a lot of grass. We've got 150 days of grass ahead of us right now. When growth slows down, we're slowing down because we want the plants to have as much time as they need to recover under any circumstances. Now that changes over the year. It's constantly changing. So we're trying to match our movement. We're trying to always provide enough recovery so that the plants are fully recovered before we graze them again. Now doing that has meant for us that the number of perennials we've got is increasing all the time. So that's incredibly encouraging. One of the benchmarks for me is I get asked to, the holistic management educators in Australia have a monthly phone hookup, and they asked me and a few other people who'd been practicing for quite a while to sit in on those phone conversations. And one of the things that really jumps off the page to me is that they're all being asked to do more courses. And when they announce a course in one area, often they're running two because there are too many people to do in one course. So that says to me that there's definitely an interest in this. I think a lot of people have, we're more informed about the effects of our behaviour in the landscape, and people want to do something that's going to be good, but that they can also make a living at, that's not boom bust all the time. It's much easier to make a profit when your costs are very low, which they are once you get into regenerative agriculture, because the landscape is doing the work. And in fact, a lot of the things you do is thinking about all the things you don't need to do anymore, because the landscape is actually doing it for you, because that's what it's always trying to do. We're just tapping into natural systems. So there's that, the social effects, how people feel about what they're doing. Are they feeling confident about their future in farming? Are they confident about being able to improve the soils, vegetation and water on their farms? On those sort of measures, in this, Jackie Sherman does this Rural Health and Wellbeing Survey annually. It comes out of the University of Canberra. It's a very robust process. You can do that and identify yourself as a regenerative farmer, or you can just be a conventional farmer, which most are. And so then the health and wellbeing issues compared to the big benchmarking survey of conventional farmers, it's very rare to get shifts in those. They're worldwide surveys, they're incredibly robust, and it's very rare to get shifts of 2 or 3 points. And some of the positives for those who identify as regenerative farmers are way above what is expected good. So that's a very comforting thing, because I've always said the big unsung story is the calmness that comes over you when you feel like you're doing good things for the planet, and you're not getting yourself in these anxious. I mean, you're anxious in a drought if you're managing conventionally. I did it for years. We used to go backwards financially. We'd be anxious about our financial position. The land would look absolutely terrible, and we loved the land, and yet we were turning it into a desert. We hated that. So those things are very calming on the psyche. Now that's very important.